to dressage shows?
Yes, we do. Whenever
Awesome.
there's time, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's see if you can help our members or the people
Yes.
that are here
Absolutely.
with some of the issues they may have with their horses, or stuff they want to work on. We already have some questions lined up, but if anybody has another question, if you could please write it in the chat, so I will see it and I will ask the question for you, or give you an opportunity to ask the question. You do have to unmute yourself to talk. I think it will be nicer if you guys talk directly to Diego, so you can give more details about a specific issue that you're having. But I would like to start just with one question from the list we already have. And that is a question from Ellen. I don't know if she's here.
Yes. I'm here.
Yes? You're there? Okay. So your question was, how can a rider prepare best mentally for his or her ride?
Oof, that really depends a little bit on each person. Each person has their own little ritual, as I want to call it. Me personally, I usually like to just tune everything out and just keep my own little silence and my own little focus right before the competition or the day of the competition, if it's a big international, like a Nations Cup or something like that. Some people, I've had team members that they just get super chatty. It's kind of like they don't want to think about the competition itself, and they just talk about everything else except that, and that's their way to, I guess, beat the nerves and concentrate and coming to the ring a little bit more relaxed. So I think that pretty much depends on each person's way of doing, their little ritual before the competition.
So Ellen, is your question related to daily riding as well?
I think it's mainly in riding in general. So I realize that riding is as much mental as it is physical, and my desire is to have ways to prepare mentally for a good ride, not necessarily just for a competition, but if I'm schooling or trying new concepts, etc.
I think what's important is, the psychological aspect of it is maybe having a little bit of a routine that prepares you to your ride. And then, but the most important thing is not to improvise anything, is to already have a plan for that day, or even better for the week or the month, and you usually plan what your goal will be, and then you make a plan from the goal backwards, and so it's very important to have an agenda right away, not to get on the horse and just see where the wind is blowing, and decide what to do. Of course, the horse, what happens, you'll have your own agenda, and then the horse, being a living animal, he's gonna add what he has on the agenda for that day. So then you kind of adjust a little bit to what you had in mind. You might thinking you're going for a trail ride, he might be thinking he's going to go buck and take off. So it all depends on, you have your agenda, and then you kind of adjust a little bit to how the horse feels that day.
Yes, it's kind of a negotiation at some point, right? To a certain level.
A battle of egos, yeah.
Yeah. So does that answer your question, Ellen?
Thank you, yes.
Awesome, awesome. Let's go to one of the recent questions. Okay. All right, Andrea is asking, what are some important exercises from dressage that are important to apply to jumpers?
I think my favorite one, and I think a very important one, is the shoulder in. I think that's a very basic but very profound exercise that can lead to many other exercises after that. It helps for acquiring straightness and engagement and suppleness on that inside rein. So I think the one that I would probably use the most would be the shoulder in when preparing the jumpers, applying the dressage to jumpers. Even though, if you ask me, I think every jumper should have at least a very solid third level dressage in them, you know, to be correct horses, you know.
So Andrea, does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So get going with those dressage lessons. Huh? All righty. We have a question from Krista. She has a young thoroughbred, 7 years old, who tends to lean and get heavy. She's asking, what is the best way to help him relax and carry himself?
Leaning, you mean on both reins, like on the forehand?
Yes.
Yeah. Bueno, it's hard. First of all, the half halts will be the best thing to do, as frequent as possible and as more correct as possible. You know, never forgetting to complete the half halt by giving at the end of it. Otherwise, the half halt will produce more leaning on the bit, you know, so you always have to make sure that always give at the end of the half halt. The frequency will depend on how heavy the horse is feeling, you know. Also, especially with thoroughbreds, they tend to be super sensitive. Sometimes they're a little bit misjudged. It's not that they have a heavy mouth or a hard mouth. It's that they're so sensitive so that they respond like that to bad hands, you know. So the question would be is what is the rider doing to provoke or to encourage the leaning on the bit? It might be the rider actually pulling too much that makes the horse lean on the bit. So maybe by getting a little bit softer and being a little bit lighter and more accurate with the timing with the hands might facilitate the horse finding his own balance, you know? Instead of grabbing that fifth leg.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All righty. Next question. Malena is asking, what is your routine when you get on the horse? Regarding warm-up and the work part of your ride, your routine when you do flat work for the jumpers. And well, the second part of your question, Malena, was kind of answered before, if you ride with a purpose or with an objective for each horse, and the answer is yes.
Always, yeah.
Like Diego said before. But what is your ride in general when you get on a jumper?
It depends what day of the week it is, you know. If it's one of the days where we're just purely flatting, well, first we walk for a little while, let the blood and oxygen start circulating through the muscles and all that stuff, get the blood flowing. And then usually once you begin a little bit of a light working trot with a light contact or whatever, just a steady connection. Usually the first 3 to 5 minutes are just basically the horses, you know, just let them start warming up a little bit, little by little, let their backs warm up and all that. Then usually our routine is pretty much, you know, of course in different variations, but it includes the shoulder in, leg yields, lengthening, shortening, working a lot on circles, because I love working on circles. For me, it's like the best way to get a horse straight is in a circle. So we use a lot of circles, and then maybe making the circle smaller, bigger. Then after a couple of collecting exercises, getting a little bit on the jumping position to relieve some stress from the back. But it all kind of depends on what we're doing the day after or what we did the day before. You know, it always has a little bit of an agenda, like I said before, a little plan for the week and the month of what we're doing with the specific horse. And then the days that we're jumping is basically those 45 minutes to an hour of flat work that we do on the flat day. You get all that probably summarized in 10-15 minutes, and that's the warm-up before starting to jump, you know, the jumping day, which is 2, maybe 3 times a week.
Okay, so you have 2 or 3 jumping days in a week?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
And then the rest is flat work, and the horses have off?
Yeah.
I mean, not if you're going to a competition, but the horses have 1 day off in the week?
1 day off, yeah.
Do you do any other stuff with your horses, like you take them on trail rides or do something, I don't know, completely different in a week?
I would love to hear, but we're super limited here in our area to where we can go trail riding, or trail riding would consist in going out on the road, on the street, which is not so safe all the time. So we just try to keep it very, I like a lot of variation, the jumps get moved almost every single time that we jump. They're never in the same position. We have different exercises, jumps with a lot of different profiles, walls, gates, Liverpools, just plain rails, sometimes even some hail bales might help. You just try to keep it very, a lot of variety of stuff so the horses don't get dull and bored,
Right. Okay, let's go to here one of the questions I have on paper. A question about young horses. Can you name some exercises for young horses to find their balance in transitions?
I think it's actually doing the transitions. Like I said, I would probably, with the young one, I would recommend riding them in a 20-meter circles or bigger if necessary. Only because for the rider, it's easier to maintain or feel the straightness or the crookedness when you're in a circle. And then just trying to ride those transitions, always remembering they're coming from back to front, and not by bringing the bit towards the horse, but by sending the horse towards the bit, and letting them find their balance a little bit. The most important thing sometimes is patience, because when people tend to try to get results too quickly, you start becoming a little bit rough with the hands and stuff like that, and that actually goes the other direction that you're trying to head towards. So I think it's a lot of patience. It doesn't have to be perfect at the beginning, and then even the whole day of training, at the end of the day, sometimes okay is good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect every day. It's just always thinking long term a little bit, looking at the big picture rather than trying to rush everything into the one day.
Yes, a lot of patience with young horses, right?
Yep.
So that was Kelly's question, right, Kelly?
And another thing for the young horse, for the balance, would be also sometimes to include maybe 1 or 2 days of lunging, properly lunging. I like to use the side reins and knowing how to. It's very important to know how to adjust the inside side rein and the outside side rein, and the correct way of putting the lunge line and all that. But the lunging done the correct way, I think it helps a lot with the young ones to always keep it as part of the weekly program, once or twice, in there.
Yes, and for how long would you lunge a horse, especially a young one?
As long as needed, but if it's the day where you're only lunging, you might do, I don't know, if everything is going according to plan and the horse is not bolting and you're not getting interrupted by his freshness or whatever, I would probably do 20-25 minutes on each side. Maybe the days that you're doing the longest time on the lunge line, I don't like to canter them too much on the lunge line. I think that could be a little bit dangerous sometimes with injuries because of the tightness of the circle for too many, the repetition on the circle. So sometimes I just do a lot of trot to walk transitions. Then maybe if you go into the canter, you do it for only 6, 8 strides, 10 strides, and then back to the trot again. Don't stay at the canter for too long on the lunge line. If you're maybe gonna split the session that day, you could probably lunge them for 10, 15 minutes or until you see the back is relaxed and everything, and then you can ride them a little bit, and it's a very good tool with the young ones, is the lunge line.
Okay. Sounds like a good suggestion. Kelly, do you lunge your horse?
Yeah, I lunge him pretty much every day before I ride him, only because he comes out pretty fresh.
Okay.
Uh-oh, we lost you. Can you hear me, Kelly?
Um, but I'm needing to lunge him less.
Yes, because it sounds like if you're lunging him every day just to get rid of the freshness, you're actually giving him more condition. So each time is gonna take longer to get him tired on the lunge line. Huh?
Yeah, but yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I think that I do it more.
If it's fresh every day, I know sometimes it might be that just you do it out of safety for yourself, but maybe what you need to look into, if it's fresh every day, maybe look into the diet that you're using on the horse. Maybe he's getting too much sugars and stuff on the feed, or the hay is too rich, so you gotta play a little bit with the feed sometimes. And then maybe what you could do is to ride him in the morning, maybe in the afternoon, make sure he gets hand walk for another 45 minutes or whatever, just to keep using his energy all the time, you know.
That sounds like a very good advice, right, Kelly?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I
Do
appreciate
you want to answer you want to ask your second question? You remember your second question?
Let me find it. I mean, I don't want to. Okay. Well, all right. I have a young Dutch harness horse. He's super sensitive, and he's spooky, and he's more so while he's being ridden. And I was wondering, what could I do to help calm his anxiety while I'm riding him?
It's hard to just give an advice right off the bat. I would have to see what is it that's creating the anxiety on the horse, you know. But like I said, maybe a good long walk before getting on, or putting him on the lunge line before getting on. Checking on the feed. Sometimes, like I said, if the diet it's the wrong one, it could make them more spooky, more nervous, more on edge all the time because they have too much energy in there, you know. So sometimes you can regulate that a little bit by having the correct nutrition on the horse. Other than that, the long walks before riding, or the lunch line, like I said, to get rid of a little bit of the energy, or make it more relaxed before you get on, you know. But it will be interesting to see what is it that's causing the anxiety, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're losing you, Kelly.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that advice. I'm gonna. I'm sorry. You know, my internet connection is horrible.
That's okay. That's okay. I would like to go to Natalie's question. She's asking you, when riding on your own, is there a way to check whether a horse is in front of the vertical or behind it?
Yes, okay. I would like to refer it as more as behind the leg or in front of the leg, because it's very difficult for a horse to get behind the vertical if it's in front of the leg. Or you could even have a horse that's a little bit past the vertical, but if it's in front of the leg, it's okay. That's the big misconception sometimes of the you know, when people see the big German riders in the warm-up rings and stuff like that, with the horses super curled under, and then we try to imitate that, but we're not creating the same impulsion, so then it becomes a bad thing instead of a good thing. So I think I would concentrate a little bit more on if the horse is in front of the leg or behind the leg, rather than if it's over or behind the vertical, you know. Now, the good way to check is, you know, you have to feel that uphill balance all the time, you know, like like the horse is coming out of your belly button, so to speak, you know, and coming uphill like that in front of you. You have to get that feeling that you have 3/4 of the length of the horse in front of you, not behind you. So if you get all that, if you look for all those sensations of the horse in front of the leg, being in front of you, responsive to the leg and all that, I'm pretty sure the behind the vertical part is not going to be a problem.
All right,
Okay.
Natalie?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. That's a good point.
Awesome.
In front of the leg versus behind the leg.
That's the main thing. So what you could do is the moment he starts, like if you're asking him to get a little bit rounder and softer in the bit, the moment you feel he gives and you feel that void, that vacuum on the reins, you know, in the connection where there's no connection with the mouth, that's your cue to push again, you know, and make him take the contact again. And that way you make sure he doesn't disappear behind the bit and behind your hand, because that's basically a horse behind the leg.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks.
All right, Maria. Maria has a very interesting question, more so about the rider. What type of exercises do you consider most beneficial to complement the equestrian sport? In other words, which part of the body should be strengthened to be able to ride better? Is it yoga, swimming, bicycle, running? If you had to pick a sport or an activity, which one would you choose? Or do you do any other sports besides riding? Or do you go to a gym or?
Yes, I go to the gym because, you know, also when you get to be a certain age, it's not easy to keep the weight down. So I go to the gym a lot. I play soccer, you know, whatever. I love sports, so whatever's available, I tend to do it. I would think that probably the main part is the core, you know, have a very strong core. I think that will be the main thing, because that thing, you know, you use your abdominal muscles for half holds and also for your balance, you know. The legs, people think about strengthening the leg. I don't think the leg has to be that strong, you know. I think as long as you have a good strong base of support and a very steady leg, you'll be fine. You don't have to be able to crush the horse's intestines with your legs to be effective, you know. It's more about the timing. So I would think maybe the core would be the main thing to go to, you know. That would be probably the main thing to work. And then weightlifting, I try to stay away from doing too heavy weightlifting, because I think it's better to stay a little bit more elastic and more flexible than to becoming too stiff, you know, with the weightlifting.
So stretching would be a good
Stretching is
advice
really
for
good.
riders.
I think I don't do it, but I know that yoga would be a really good exercise for riding. You know, a very good workout is yoga, Pilates and stuff like that people know that nowadays. I think is very I think it's very contributes a lot with the riding.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of times we forget about the rider and we think the horses has to be fit, you know, they have to jump 1.50 meters, but we still have to ride them and prepare them for it. The next question is Holly's question. What are good cross-training exercises for dressage horses?
Meaning mixing jumping a little bit with it or something?
Yes.
The cavaletis is the main thing. I mean, I think that should be part of the weekly training, is doing cavaletis, even little low fences over gymnastics. I think it helps a lot with their backs and strengthening their backs. And at the same time, that we were talking before, since we don't have that availability of going out on the mountain and stuff like that for trail riding and things like that, I think it maintains the horses, the variety on the horses training. So it keeps them happy and always looking forward to come out to the ring and train. It doesn't become this dull repetition of day to day doing the same thing, you know. So I would recommend a lot of cavaletti work. I think it's very important, the cavaletti for the dressage horses. You know, it's like going to the gym, you know, cavalettis, it's that you work, you make the hocks bend more than you would on a normal flat, so it increases the flexibility and the strength on the hind legs. If you do little bouncers, that's for us like doing push-ups, you know, and stuff like that. So cavaletti work is without a doubt, it should be part of the dressage horses training. Yeah.
Would you advise to do that maybe once a week or more often? Or
Once or twice a week is good, you know, I think.
yeah.
You know.
Okay, Holly, does that answer your question? Are you there, Holly?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. And the bouncy, we'll have to go and see you, Diego, and you can do the bouncy jumps with your old man, huh?
Of course.
All right, we have 2 questions in one from Larby. Which people have been most influential in your writing? And the second part is, what do you like most about coaching?
Influential people, well, my coaches, of course, have been super influential. Luis Wash from Mexico, Alberto Wash from Mexico, Raul de Leon, that's here in New York. My first coach ever, Roxana Tinoco from El Salvador. Among some other clinicians, you know, that I've taken, I've had the blessing to be able to write with people like Nelson Pessoa and stuff like that, which is, you know, it's been a big treat. And then after that, you know, in just trainers in general, from books and stuff like that, I've very big influence by Bert de Nemeth, William Steinkraus, and lots of other people from that era, you know. The second question was the coaching part. Okay, I don't know. I'm just super passionate about coaching. I love to see the progress in the riders and the horses. I never do it, but I would love to always. I always say I should have done it when you take the first picture of day one and then you do the picture afterwards. I never do it. I always say I should do it, but I love to see that progression from the first day they come into the barn, and then when you see them 2-3 months later, it's sometimes they're like completely different horses, and that triggers me to do it every day, you know?
Yes.
Same with
it's very rewarding.
Same
right?
with the riders, you know. Same with the riders, you know.
Yeah. It's very rewarding.
Extremely, yeah.
Yeah. Well, in the first part, you mentioned some people that wrote a book. If I heard right. Do you recommend any books for either dressage maybe, or jumping, or maybe dressage for jumping?
I think that the for the jumpers, I think one of the Bibles should be the Bertal and the Nemeth method. Another good book is William Steinkraus. For the dressage people, I think the one by Ingrid Klimke is really good, or the father, Dr. Rainer Klimke. There's a very good book from the German National Federation about dressage. It's really, really good, very, very complete, very basic, all the way to, it's a very good book to read. There's a more advanced, you know, from classical writing that I've read from, you know, people from back in the day with the very classical dressage, but I think it's always interesting to see where the whole history comes from, you know?
Yes, and the reason why we do all the exercises we do, and, you know, and the way it should be.
Exactly.
Okay, Sophia. She asks if you were ever scared of the height of a jump. I know you did Grand Prix, so you got these big ones in front of you.
Always. It's funny, you know, once you're there at that level and you've had time creating this partnership with the horse, it's funny that, you know, when you're walking the horse, the things look huge, but once you're on your horse and you're actually going to the jumps, that the last thing on your mind is the height. Actually, you know, you basically just are so focused on doing everything right between the jumps that the jumps are just another big stride in the middle of the, on the way. It's you're more worried about the rhythm, the balance, the approaches, the just doing everything correctly from one jump to the other, that you're really not really thinking about the height that much. At least that happens to me, and then the horse gives you the confidence that then the big jumps start feeling not so big, with the horse that can do it with ease, and with big ability.
Yes. Okay. Well, talking about that topic, and going a little bit in depth on how to get the right distance for the jumping.
Ooh, big mystery. I don't like to think too much about the right distance. I think that if you focus on the good rhythm and the good balance on the turn or the approach, the distance will appear. Whether it's a short, normal, or long distance, it'll feel right, or the horse will be able to do it if he has the right balance and the right rhythm.
Yes. Malena, that was Malena's question. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
I think you've heard that before, right? Rhythm, rhythm, rhythm.
Yeah, but I forget.
Okay, all right. Diego, in the end, we will ask you to repeat the names of the books for the jumpers. Maybe you can write it in the chat so people can see it.
I'm gonna see if I can find them, Daphne. Okay. So the Diego doesn't have to do that.
Okay. We have one more question from Malena. My mare is sometimes very behind the leg and stiff. Other days, she's moving great. What routine do you recommend to soften and relax her and the rider as well?
Say that again, please.
My mare sometimes is very behind the leg and stiff. Other days, she's moving great. What routine do you recommend to soften and relax her and the rider as well? The horse is 16 years old.
16?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a problem with women, huh? Not every day is the same, but I think that the days that she feels behind the leg and stiff, I'll probably just spend more time suppling her at the walk. Don't even begin the trot, because it might just create a little bit more stiffness and stuff. So I have sometimes I have some mare or two here at the barn that do that sometimes. So what I do is I just spend more time suppling at the walk. Sometimes I'll write a whole dressage test at the walk, the whole thing, just to get them a little bit relaxed and in front of the leg, and even at the walk, do a little bit of lengthening and shortening. And then that way, once you begin the trot and the rest of the session, it'll go a lot better.
Okay, Malena, does that make sense?
Yes. Sí.
Awesome. So the next question, we know horses have good sides and bad sides, they're hollow to one side, but riders can also have those kind of problems. Kelly is asking, how can a rider work, especially in the canter, to correct her bad side?
I guess once you identify which is your weak side, is just the way I tend to do it myself, and I tell the people that ride here with me is you have to exaggerate the correction, so you know that the correct seat for the canter, inside leg immediately behind the girth, outside leg slightly behind the girth if you're in a circle, inside hip slightly forward, outside shoulder back, and then just try to exaggerate the correction towards that proper position, or balance of the rider. So yeah, I think it's just accelerating the correction. The first step, the main step, is to identify your problem. Once you know it, that's the beginning of the correction of it. You know, the problem is when people don't feel what they're doing wrong, you know, but if you're already able to feel it, then it's just a matter of working at it every day and just exaggerate the correction. If sometimes what I tell my people here, if it feels okay, it's because you're not doing it. You have to be comfortable feeling uncomfortable sometimes when you're making the correction. And only by making the correction a little bit more exaggerated, then the normal home will become the correct position, you know, instead of the awkward position.
Right. It's like you have to get out of your comfort zone.
Well, you have to go past the correction, because if you're sitting, if sitting at home, if feeling at home is not the correct position, if you just make this, if you just go into the correct position, the moment you're not thinking about it, you're gonna come back home, which is the incorrect position. So you have to go past the correct position and exaggerate the correction a little bit more. So when you're actually not thinking about it, home will become the correct one. You won't go back to the incorrect, you know, where you first started.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
All righty. We have one other question from Ellen. What are the key things to do out of the saddle to keep horses happy and comfortable in their work?
In their work? I don't know. I mean, in general, just to keep a horse happy, I think the best I think the best reward you can give a horse, it's a correct ride every day. I think that keeps them very happy, keeps them very sound. When you're out of the arena, when you're not riding the horse, I will think they just need really good grain, good hay, water, good care, good grooming. You know, not grooming. When I mean grooming, is not using them as pets. It's just, you know, the correct way, just to make sure there's no fungus, there's no, you know, checking their ligaments, making sure it's okay, everything is okay, you know, that there's no cuts or here and there. Good shoeing, I think, is very important. Very, very important to have a good farrier. And I think just normal, just sometimes simplicity is the best recommendation, you know.
Do you do any body work on the horses?
We do Magna Wave here at the barn. We have a girl come to do I believe a lot on that, especially for, you know, after a hard day of work or a rough week at the horse show, stuff like that. I think it helps a lot with the muscles and the blood circulation and stuff like that. So we do a lot of the Magna Wave, and then besides that, you know, we have the magnetic blanket, ice, you know, just basic stuff.
Okay. Another question from Natalie. How long of a warm-up do you do before a dressage test? The question might be more tricky for Florida competitions during hot weather.
I think it depends on the horse. I think it depends on the weather. You know, some horses that are super high strung, they need a long warm-up in order to look and perform well at the test. Some horses are better off going into the arena a little bit fresh. You know, they're going to be a little bit more expressive and more, you know, move better. So it's a tricky question because it depends a lot on the horse, you know, on what they need and also how they feel that day when you come out of the box and go into the warm-up arena. You know, maybe they're feeling way too fresh. You're going to need a little bit longer warm-up that day. So it's a very depends off type of answer, you know. So I'm sorry, not so clear on that answer, but it depends a lot on all those situations, you know.
Right, and very individual to the horse, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Raya is asking you, do you use supplements? And if so, which ones?
Not really. I really don't use that much of supplements at all. I think it's when you have the right diet and good grain and good hay, good quality hay, very important. I think the other stuff is just very expensive urine, you know. So I try to keep it simple. There's certain things that we do sometimes, but it's more the exception than the regularity. Yeah.
Right. Yes, it's a whole. I don't know in Europe if they are so keen on supplements as we are here in the States, but it's definitely a big industry, and that has worked. That has grown so much in the last years. And I myself also have asked, is it really necessary? A horse feed manufacturers make feed balanced, and there are a lot of vitamins, minerals, anything a horse needs according to its performance.
Yeah.
So then the question is, should we do a little more?
Yeah, like I've used on some of the high performance horses, like if you want to call it the Formula One horses that I've done the Nations Cups with and stuff like that. I've used with them some little extra stuff that you need, but I think that on the regular everyday horses, that we see here, and the level that we do here in our in our region here, I don't think you need too much. I think what I do, I'm super blessed that I have the lady that represents my brand feed that we work with. She comes every time she can, and she checks on the horses, and she'll give you nutritional advice, and she'll help me with raise the feed on this one, lower the feed on this one, let's change the feed to this one, let's do this. But it's always playing with the grain. There's not much supplement talk in it. It's like I said, I've only used supplements in some of the horses that I was doing the Nations Cup with, but it's because it's a little bit more demanding, and sometimes the boost of the grain is not enough when you're doing the big fences, and especially in week to week, So yeah, but I try to keep. I'm a very purist. I try not to mess too much with stuff. I try to things less is more.
Yes, and getting the expert advice from the people who make the feed, I think, is a very
It's better because a lot of people love to play and guess a little bit with the feeds, but and supplements and stuff like that.
Exactly. Okay, so we have some jumpers in the audience. I'm sure you know. And Andrea, I would like to know, what does third level dressage consist of?
Andrea, you should know that already.
Maybe connected to another question.
I'm referring with, shoulder in, hunches in, leg yields, medium trot, a little bit of extended trot, I think, serpentines, canter, lead changes, circles, transitions. That's, I think, what you see on most of these things, no?
Right. There was somebody else asking, I can't find the question. It was something about the canter pirouette. If you would teach jumpers the counter pirouette, is it important? Yes.
The canter pirouette?
Andrea is asking this.
The canter pirouette.
The canter pirouette for the jumpers.
Oof, we do them a lot.
You do?
We do them a lot here in training, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not the big advanced Grand Prix dressage level pirouette, but what do you call? I think you call it the training pirouette, or what's the other name for it? When it's not quite that small, but we do some of that a lot here with the jumpers. One of my favorite exercises is coming from a big, medium, or extended canter on the long side, then collecting. And in the short side, doing a little pirouette like that, and then lengthening the canter again out of the pirouette. I think that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Alrighty, Isabella is asking, when flatting by myself, what are some good basic exercises to engage and strengthen the hind end?
transitions, downward transitions, going in a circle from a big circle to a small circle, then back to the big circle. Shoulder in, like I said before, some half passes, you know, all the good stuff.
Mhm. All righty, let's see if there's one more. There is another question. What was it like to go to the Longines event in Asia? Was it China?
Yeah, Beijing. Yeah, that was interesting. It was, you know, like every time that you're representing your country is already a little bit nerve-wracking. It gives it a little bit of it's a different atmosphere already at the horse show than when you're just showing in the national regular Grand Prix. So that itself was a little bit exciting. But then, you know, having had the blessing to go to a place I've never been there before, and this very what is it, interesting culture and stuff like that. It was a very, very good experience. You know, especially when those nice Longines Masters horse shows, they make you feel like a rock star, you know, when you're a rider. So it was a very, very nice experience. Very nice experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we've come to the end of our questions. I don't know if anybody else would like to ask Diego a question directly.
What are you doing at your barn right now?
With this whole situation,
Yeah.
I have a couple of the good riders here from the barn that help me. They come in the morning, and we move all the horses, and that's the end of the day. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, we're just training. You know, we keep the horses in training right now, but we're not doing any lessons or training with the riders at the moment. I think hopefully, I don't know, maybe you guys can give me a little bit of an advice. I don't know if I was thinking that maybe in 2 weeks or something we can start going back to normal, but I'm not sure what to do with this whole thing.
A question.
Yeah.
A question. I know the walkers very popular in Europe and in some other countries, but I didn't see many of them in the US. Do you consider it as like a substitute for a day off, just to use a walker?
Yes, I would really like to have a walker myself. I think it's really good. First, it saves you manpower, you know, especially the round big walkers, because you can have 3, 4, 6 horses walking there at a time. Sometimes you can even have them trot a little bit, you know, but I think they're really good. You can use them for warm up or for cooling down the horse after work. You know, when you don't have enough help at the barn, you know, you can, after you ride your horse and you're tacking up the next one, you can put him in there to cool off. It's really handy, right, like that. Also, like you mentioned, on an day off, it's a really good active rest, you know, where they can go there for an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. I think I really like it a lot.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
I have a question too. How long have your horses been like not doing their normal routine? And once they are able to do it, how will you start getting them in shape again? Because you can't obviously start doing everything that you did before. You have to go, I mean, how is that process?
I think if it's been due to an injury, usually your vet will kind of give you a little guidance of how to start the horse, you know, for how long the first few days, how to increase, you know, whether it's by intervals of 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So usually when I've had to do that before, recovering horses from injuries and stuff like that, I always try to do it hand in hand with the vet. You know, I try not to take things on my own matter, so to speak. I always keep a very close communication with the vet. Now with the technology that we have, I send them almost like a daily video, you know, just for them to see how the horse looks and stuff like that. And then they're gonna be guiding me throughout the whole progress. Because sometimes the vet that I use, sometimes he's traveling a lot. So I send the videos and then he'll tell me, okay, you know, tomorrow you have to increase 10 more minutes for this next week, or, you know, now you can start jumping, or now you can start doing this, doing that. So I usually do it hand in hand with the vet. So my recommendation would be that is to because it depends a lot of the type of injury or the reason why he's been off, you know. So it's that the reason why you've had him off will give you the guide to how to recover and bring him back to normal again.
And what would you do if, let's say, you were on vacation, or maybe you sent a horse a month just to rest?
Then
How long would it be to put a horse back to normal, on his normal schedule?
4 to 6 months, I would think, you know, to be back to maybe the way he was before you sent him out to the pasture or the rest, you know. I think 4 to 6 months. Start gradually, you know. I usually would start him on the lunge line, maybe lunge them for the first week and a half, you know, to start strengthening the muscles and all that stuff. And then just little by little, you know, usually the horse will kind of tell you, you know, when he's getting too tired, or he feels too weak, and maybe if you did a little too much the next day, you'll feel him a little bit sore. But it's sometimes that soreness is not a bad thing. It's just normal. It's like when you go to the gym and you feel sore the next day, you just gotta keep working, you know. So basically, yeah, I would think 3 to 6 months is a good time, I think, to guess that he's gonna be back to normal.
Okay, all right. Last chance. It's 9 o'clock. Last chance for the last question.
Daphne, there are a couple of questions actually in the chat. Actually, very good questions.
Oh, let's see. All righty. Do you offer clinics year round?
Yes.
You do? Would you travel?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Maybe you can give your information. They can go to your website to contact you to see if you can
Absolutely
provide any clinics.
Yes. No, I do them a lot in Costa Rica, El Salvador, here.
Super. We'll get that information to you, Maria. Christina is asking, how many horses do you have right now?
I think right now we're up to 24.
Oh my goodness.
Keeps us busy.
You don't do anything small. So,
Yeah, I think 23, 24, I think.
wow.
Right. That's a handful.
Yes.
All right, Camila.
We have an amazing staff and riders here that it's no problem.
Right. Okay, Camila is asking, what is your advice for riders who have had a really bad fall and are now scared? And I'm going to add a question to that one. What is your advice for horses who have had a bad fall and are now scared to jump?
I think it's kind of like the same response for both. I think you have to have a very knowledgeable, sensitive coach that can understand the rider's psychology or the horse's psychology in either case, to know which things can make you scared and to be able to catch that little glimpse, that fraction of a second where you're getting scared again, you know, in order to make the adjustment as necessary. I think it's very important that the coach recognizes those moments. It's very, very, very important, because it's very easy. It takes forever to create confidence on the horse and the rider, and you can lose it in 2 seconds. So I think it's very important for the coaches to be very keen on that psychological part of the athlete's brain, you know. And at the same time knowing how to push, when to push, to break that ice that will make them gain confidence sometimes, even if they're a little bit scared doing what you're asking them to do. But there's a good scare and a bad scare that you have to be able to feel it, you know. So the best thing is to find a very good coach that can guide you and help you recover from that situation, because I've been there, done that, so I know how it feels.
Yes, yes. Okay. Guillermo, who has his horses in El Salvador, he cannot go to the barn. The horses are on rest. So, and his question is, you know, when the virus is over and we go back to normal, how to get back into shape? And he's not only talking about the horse, but also about himself, the rider, right?
I was gonna say, because we're all gaining weight in this coronavirus thing. Yeah, I mean, it's a bad situation right now. But to be honest with you, there's no reason why the rider should go lose his shape. I think right now, even if you're at home, there's plenty of things you can do to stay in shape. Eat healthy, you know, so that you're not completely out of whack when we start again, you know. As of the horses, if there's no way to get them ridden or keeping them active and working right now, it's just like we were saying with one of these previous questions, is you have to start very slowly, very gradual. Take your time, be patient. Don't think about a horse show right now, you know, or jumping maybe for the first couple of weeks, you know, just getting them back in shape. You know, Salvador, we have the advantage that you can go, remember going up long hills, up the mountains, down the mountains. Those long walks are very good to get them back in shape little by little.
Yes, yeah, we really miss that here. Even little ramps or little bumps in the grass. I remember at your previous farm, you had a little, a little bump in the grass where you would go up and down, up and down.
On the previous farm, when we made the dressage thing, all the extra stuff, I had them make me that little bump so that I could at least feel like I was going up somewhere in a little hill. And
yeah. Anything helps. Okay, last question. Anybody? Before we let Diego go. That's it for tonight.
Super.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it and thought and got some good information from Diego. He's very knowledgeable and has been in horses for so long. You know, we can always learn from each other, and we were super happy to have you here, Diego.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you, super.
We can do it again if you want, and I love it. It's no problem with me.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
it. Was great. Thank you. I loved it.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Round of applause.
Good night, everyone, and stay safe. Huh? Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Good night.
Thanks for you.
Hey.
Bye, everybody.
And Daphne.
Okay.
I'll leave it open. So, Diego.
Yes.
I recorded this. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just don't make me look fat. That's it.
Well, I know you're new to this, but there is actually a button that's I don't know. It's basically it's to make your face look smoother or something.
Now you tell me this after the whole hour.
I'm sorry. So, but anyway.
No, it's been a pleasure, and if you guys want to do this again, let me know. I'm game. No problem.
Okay, we'll start thinking about the questions right now.
Yeah.
Huh?
We'll start thinking about new questions right now.
Perfect. Let me know.
The next one.
Get them ready and let me know.
Yeah. Are all these people from your barn, or are they just friends from all over? Is it?
What, sorry?
Were all these people from your barn, or are they friends from all over?
I think some of them are from the barn. I think a few of them were from El Salvador.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a big crowd. So look at you.
Everybody waving from overseas, I think.
Yes.
And now you know how to use Zoom, so you can meet with these people too. So,
Perfect. Yeah, no, if you guys want to do this again, I'll be more than happy.
okay,
problem.
fantastic.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. All right, great.
Have a good night. Stay safe.
Thanks, you too.
Diego, bye-bye.
Diego.
All right.
Hola, Dieguito.
All right, I'm gonna just end the meeting because I think or maybe just
Okay, Holly.
all right, okay. Bye, everybody.
You guys, bye.